We've seen a lot of movies and heard a lot of stories about criminals breaking out of prison and escaping from dreadful jails. But here's a new one. There have been many instances where criminals were brought to their trials to make stronger cases for themselves in front of a judge, and instead of doing well, that some of the dumb prisoners tend to make a run for it, which, we should note, never works out in their favor. Courtroom escapes are not only against the law, but also hazardous to everyone involved, including innocent spectators. It's critical to understand these behaviors' seriousness and their effects. Let's get started with the cases we'll be discussing today. Instances where inmates were seen entering the courtroom and running away from it. Firstly, Bundy, Ted. This is a case that you might be familiar with if you've watched any of the Ted Bundy documentaries. But for those unaware, let's quickly review it. Following the disappearance of Karen Campbell, a 23-year-old nurse, and the discovery of her body near Snowmass, Colorado, in February 1975, authorities found evidence linking Bundy to Campbell's slaying in Colorado. She had been on vacation with her fiancé at the ski resort when Bundy was detained and accused of murdering Campbell in the first degree. He was then transported from Utah to Aspen, Colorado, where he was being held while he awaited trial. The Pitkin County Courthouse is on the same floor as the law library, which is open to the public. The judge determined that Bundy did not require restraint, so he was free to enter the courtroom and the law library without taking off his shoes or shackles, because he was allowed to assist in his defense. In a later conversation with Dr. Al Carlisle, Bundy's prison psychologist, he says that over several months while being imprisoned in the law library by sheriff's officials on June 7, 1977, he had observed several possibilities to walk out. Choosing to take a gamble, Bundy. Before anyone even noticed Bundy had escaped, the sheriff's department had searched every automobile leaving Aspen at checkpoints it had put up at both of the city's gates. 10 minutes after, Bundy leaped out of the second-story window and started towards the mountains. On day 6, after making his getaway, a deputy noticed Bundy's erratic driving and pulled him over. Bundy had run out into the mountains and broken into a cabin where he hid for many days. After some time, Bundy strolled back into Aspen and stole a car that had been left unlocked with the keys inside. Tanner Jacobson and Cody Howard, two minor offenders from Washington State, believed they could escape a courthouse by surprising a few security guards. They didn't expect the judge to get up, remove his black robes like a pro wrestler, get ready for battle, and run out from behind the bench to give chase. Here is an example of what genuine bravery and quick thinking look like. In Washington State, two handcuffed inmates left the judge's courtroom while wearing robes, and the judge took off his robe to chase them in the footage obtained by the Daily Chronicle on October 16th. Judge R.W. Buzzard can be seen sprinting to the door and downstairs as the men, later identified as Cody Howard, 28, and Tanner Jacobson, 22, flee while bouncing down 4 flights of stairs. At the Lewis County Courthouse in Chehalis, Washington, about 85 miles southwest of Seattle, the authorities claimed that they had caught Jacobson and that both prisoners had been charged with second-degree escape just as Howard was about to leave the courthouse. Jacobson had been leading, but just as Howard was about to leave, the judge closed in and seized him. One deputy can be seen leading 4 prisoners out of court while being last in line in the first surveillance footage, which is mostly out of focus. Instead of exiting to the right of the judge's seat, Howard and Jacobson turn around and sprint for the public entrance at the back of the courtroom. Cameras on the stairs show that Jacobson occasionally took many steps at once. As Howard is about to enter an open emergency exit door on the ground floor, a lizard is seen grabbing him before disappearing from view. A crowd immediately formed at the location, but the camera did not properly show them. According to Sheriff Rob Snazza, these occurrences don't occur regularly. On the way to the Hartford courthouse, state police caught the defendant who had escaped the courtroom on Lafayette Street in Hartford. State police reported no incident while detaining Mariko Ellis, 24, in East Hartford. State troopers searched his home and found drug paraphernalia, including 2 300 packets of fentanyl and around 20 grams of raw fentanyl. Earlier, according to the official, Alice jumped over many rows of spectator seats to flee from the court, and while doing so, the defendant misplaced both of her shoes. Ultimately, the court issued 3 felony rearrest warrants with combined bail amounts of $1.8 million. Drones and K-9 teams were used in the search, so luck was not on his side, but someone had to give him 10 points for dedication. The next time anyone saw him, he was on Park Street. The judge reportedly reappeared on the record after Ellis left the building and ordered many arrests with bonds totaling nearly $2 million. All of these people are pretty impulsive, and they never bothered to check their risks clearly. So perhaps someone should sit them down and explain that not every escape attempt is as successful as Shawshank's Redemption, so that perhaps then these criminals will try to understand that escaping and failing only leaves them in a much more miserable position. The Gerald Hyatt case should not be overlooked. A convicted meth addict named Gerald Hyde II and the world's least alert guard staged an equally audacious, pointless escape from a Washington state courtroom, proving that there must be something in the water there. A group of inmates was ushered into the adjacent courtroom shortly after the day's hearings were finished, probably waiting for the van to take them back to jail. As alert as a tranquilized bear, a guard moved to the opposite side of the room. Gerald tied the second and walked back to the door saying, "You're wrong, sir," while the other prisoners pretended not to notice. Once the courtroom had left, he ran through the courthouse's hallways in just his underwear and bare feet. And even though he looked more like an escaped criminal than any other escaped prisoner had ever looked in the history of escaped prisoners, not a single person confronted him as he left through the front door. Hyde II was apprehended when he attempted to hide in the home of a known acquaintance, but his cleverness didn't last long, and a few hours after his escape, Hyde II was caught. According to the Spokane County Sheriff's Office, a prisoner who escaped from the Spokane County Courthouse has been charged with murder. On Tuesday, Alex J. Hegland, 38, had 2 misdemeanor charges set for the court appearance. According to the deputies, Hegland allegedly escaped the courtroom inside the building, but he was found in less than 30 minutes. When Hegland was found in a backyard on West Dean by K-9 Jagger, the Spokane County Sheriff's Office used the K-9 and the Throne team of the Spokane Police Department to set up a perimeter and follow him. Hegland was then taken back to the Spokane jail for second-degree felony escape. He continues to face charges of reckless and drunk driving, both misdemeanors. Before a K-9 unit discovered the prisoner avoiding capture in Spokane Valley in December 2017, a K-9 team had captured him. Perhaps the next time he attempts to flee, he will think of a more creative hiding spot than someone's backyard. Even children who play hide and seek would concur that a backyard is a terrible location to hide. This was a very sad sequel to the Leonard Grazer escape and had a quite funny core. Personnel in Moscow took no chances with Leonard Geyser's trial for a murder he claimed Satan had instructed him to commit. The 18-year-old was placed in a reinforced lat enclosure, where he was placed with a smug grin on his face like a movie villain who had voluntarily allowed himself to be kidnapped. However, his aura of cunning malice was quickly doused as he attempted to escape through the roof. He pushed through a ceiling panel while a guard jumped up and started beating him with a baton as he scaled the walls of his makeshift cage. A few miles later, Grazer returned to his cell where he sat there in his underwear, and then, when he was told to put his pants back on, he did it. And he just stood there grinning in what we call the very wicked manner, even with blood in his mouth. One of the many guards tore Grazer's pants off during the struggle, leading to a delightfully uncomfortable standoff as the naked inmate hung upside down from the ceiling, probably silently considering the decisions. We might conclude that the offenders are becoming more intelligent with each passing day, based on all of these courtroom escape schemes. What do you think is going through these inmates' minds when they attempt to flee the courthouse? It is a really stupid thing to do. Comment below and let us know. Also, thank you for watching, and if you liked the video, please hit like and subscribe to the channel.